Welcome to Your Free Traffic lesson. In this lesson, you're going to learn the core strategy behind generating traffic without having to pay for it. Before we get into your free traffic generation strategies, I want to first make sure you understand an important concept: the time, effort, money trade-off. With your business, you're building an asset that's going to transform your life. Just as you had to invest time, money, and effort into building your skills, your other assets, your bank account, and everything else in your life, this is no different. Nothing is truly free. When generating traffic for your business, it's always going to cost you something, whether that's time, effort, and/or money. It's up to you which of these you have more of to spend on building your business, but I want you to keep this in mind, especially when considering your options for generating more traffic. There's always a cost, and nothing is truly free. Let's talk about the core strategy behind all of the free traffic generation tactics that you'll see in this section. And that strategy is very similar to fishing. You figure out where your fish, your audience, are hanging out, and then you go to those fishing holes to catch them. In other words, you're not trying to find one potential client at a time out of the billions of people online. You're going to leverage existing platforms that have already gathered an audience of the people who are your potential clients and drive that traffic back to your site. These platforms can be anything: blogs, complementary businesses, media publications, and more. Once you find these fishing holes, you want to drive their traffic back to your site. And you do that by sharing content, often on their site, such as a guest post article that links back to your landing page. The implementation guide for this section will give you scripts that you can use to pitch other sites and ideas for how to figure out what type of content you can share. As you can see here, traffic generated from your free strategies should be directed to your PDF landing page. You might be wondering how to find these fishing holes for your business. Let's go over a few powerful ways to do so. You can use Google to find the top 100 blogs or sites in your industry. You can also use the follow the leader strategy, which involves seeing what the leaders in your industry are doing, where they're fishing, and where they're being featured. You can also Google your industry terms along with phrases like guest post, write for us, contribute, and submissions. And finally, you can use Alexa.com, which is a free tool that estimates a site's popularity in comparison with other sites and shows similar sites for any site that you put in. As a side note, if a site is ranked on Alexa below 300,000 in its country category, don't bother spending a lot of time or resources on trying to get featured on that site because it means that it doesn't get a lot of traffic. As I mentioned earlier, you're going to get a list of tactics that all follow this strategy in this section's implementation guide. Before you start implementing those tactics, there are a few best practices to keep in mind. First, and this might seem obvious, go where your people are. Figure out where they hang out, what they like to read and do, and get in front of them where they're already congregating. If a site or platform doesn't cater to your audience, then no matter how big their audience is, it's not going to drive a lot of traffic for you. Also, don't randomly spam groups or forums with your landing page links. You're looking for qualified leads because those are ultimately the ones that are going to buy from you. Next, when you're driving traffic back to your site, as we discussed earlier, don't send visitors to your homepage. Remember that we discussed the huge opt-in conversion rate difference between a landing page and a homepage. You're doing all of this work to drive traffic to your site, so you should make the most of it by capturing as many of those visitors' emails as you can. Finally, remember to be consistent with your free traffic generation tactics. Don't get discouraged because one guest post or one tactic didn't work out as well as you'd hoped it would. As long as you're consistent and continue to test what works for you and what doesn't, you will succeed. As you implement the free traffic generation tactics in this section's implementation guide, I recommend following a ladder approach. What that means is that when you're starting out, don't expect to get a feature on Forbes.com right away, for example. Instead, start with a smaller publication or platform, maybe even the site of someone who offers a complimentary service and is just a few steps ahead of you, and get featured on that site first. Then, use that feature as social proof to get featured on the site of someone a few more steps ahead of that site, and then use that feature to get on Forbes.com. This is just a simple example, but the concept is very important. Leverage and stack each feature that you get to be able to get on bigger and bigger platforms. In this lesson, we covered what it takes to generate traffic without paying for it, as well as how to do so. Your next steps now are to start driving traffic back to your site using the Your Free Traffic Generation Schedule implementation guide. Afterwards, move on to the final section in this course where we're going to discuss how to get even more traffic and faster through paid traffic.